When I started working on this documentary a few months ago, I was unable to find any official statistics examining the correlation between country of origin and the perpetrators of sex crimes in the UK. The only evidence was that published on the situation in similar European nations. Yet days before going to edit, something remarkable happened. We finally got data from collated police evidence showing that foreign men, mostly from Albania, Afghanistan, Iraq and Algeria, were over 3 times more likely to be arrested for sex offences than British citizens. I wanted to investigate this fearlessly in a way that would rouse rightful horror in all who should watch and jolt them into realising nothing can excuse neglecting this issue for even a second longer. In 2013, there were over 16,000 incidents of reported rapes in the United Kingdom. By 2022, this increased to over 69,000, less than a decade on, more than a 400% increase. Shocking. We're told it's because women now report rapes more often, a conniving sleight of hand that doesn't bear scrutiny. More reports mean more incidents. If anything, women are increasingly disinclined to engage the authorities. Such is the lack of trust and the normalization of abusive practices. This harrowing trend echoes throughout Western Europe, from Finland to Denmark, Sweden, Germany and France. But why? Something else has shot up in these nations: mass migration. Now, from my own lived experience, to coin a rather vacuous term beloved by victim game authors, the connection is self-evident. What does data actually illustrate? Let's look to Germany. Shocking figures show that between 2017 and 2021, Afghans and Pakistanis were 16 times more likely to be implicated in rape than German citizens. In Finland, only 3.3 Finnish people per 10,000 were sentenced for sex crimes in 2017, compared to 138 Afghans and 134 Iraqis. And in Sweden, we see a similar story. Between 2013 and 2018, more than half of those convicted of rape or attempted rape were born in a foreign country. In cases where the victim did not know their attacker, the figure rises to 85%. Let's break that down. Algerians were 122 times more likely to commit rape than a native Swede, and Afghans 69 times more likely. Let's look now to France. In 2023, 77% of solved rape cases in Paris were committed by men who did not even hold French passports. While in 2020, 62% of sex assaults on public transport were committed by foreign nationals. In Italy, a similar picture emerges. As a proportion of rape suspects, North Africa and the Middle East are heavily overrepresented. Afghanis and Pakistanis, for instance, are proportionally 15 times more likely to be a suspect than an Italian. Like Britain, Denmark has also experienced a surge in sexual violence from around 2015 onwards, rising from around 2,500 cases in 2012 to almost 10,000 in 2022. Sexual assaults have more than tripled in just 10 years. Conviction rates for violent crimes, the closest data we could find, are dominated by nationals from the same regions, the Middle East and North Africa. So what about back at home in the United Kingdom? According to the first analysis of its kind, recent crime statistics show that in 2024, foreign nationals were 3.5 times more likely to be arrested for sex offences than British citizens. We don't have these kinds of statistics for previous years. The data has either not been gathered or remains unpublished. But similarly, when looking at the prevalence of rape gangs, how many of those perpetrators would be recorded as being British citizens? The true figure is doubtlessly far, far higher. Do you think it's about time that the government does publish that data, or do you think it would be too explosive and lead to a huge kickback against people from those communities who actually are integrated and who actually don't deserve to be targeted?
I think the government should collect and publish the data, absolutely. And I'm trying to remember whether it's Sweden or Denmark, one of those countries publishes crime data by countries of origin. Germany has got much more comprehensive data than we have. And if you speak to Home Office people here, they'll tell you we largely keep data on ethnicity of victims and not of perpetrators.
And why don't we have crime data as well, proper crime data, saying like, okay, there's been, let's say, out of 100 sexual assaults in this month, there has been 99 from Pakistan, right? And from this particular region in Pakistan as well, because there are 4 major provinces in Pakistan. The attitudes of people in those provinces are very different as well. And we can multiply that with India, because they are even bigger. Bangladesh, Syria, Iran, whatever, like there, every different area would be different. So if we have a proper crime data to say, okay, like this from maybe, Gujranwal, the people are coming from there and they're committing 99% sexual assaults.
Perhaps now we may start getting better data. Yet even with information being willfully suppressed at crimes that were formerly unheard of in the UK, perhaps indicative of foreign cultures, are now making headlines. The UK now has the highest number of recorded acid attacks in the world, with a 69% rise in the number of acid attacks in 2022 alone. Shocking new figures also reveal that in the past 6 years, police across the UK have investigated at least 175 claims of crimes involving assault and abuse using voodoo dolls and witchcraft. Honour-based abuse, which includes forced marriages, rape, death threats and assault, is also on the rise and increased in England by 60% between 2020 and 2022. Alone. Similarly, female genital mutilation increased by 15% between 2022 and 2023. The NHS first began collecting data for female genital mutilation in 2015, with NHS trusts reporting a total of 37,000 reported cases overall. But it wasn't until February 2024 that Amina Noor became the first person to be convicted of assisting a non-UK person to perform FGM. She took a child to Kenya to undergo the procedure and later told the Old Bailey that the mutilation was done for cultural reasons.
What you see on the news is just not even the tip of the iceberg of how many honor killings there are actually happening. In the UK, you hear a lot, there was the story of Banaz Mahmoud, that poor young woman who went to the police a few times telling them, my father is trying to kill me, my father wants to kill me. And they didn't believe her because it sounds so like the kind of thing a young woman would say when she's exaggerating. Oh, my dad's trying to kill me. But they don't understand that in these societies, that's actually quite normal for her father to try to kill her because she dared to be too Western, and she took off her hijab, and she had a Western boyfriend, and she wasn't living the life that they wanted her to live, and she wasn't marrying the man that they wanted her to marry. These are crimes that get women killed all the time, all over the world. And unfortunately, there is such a silence around it because they all support each other. So like in Banaz Mahmoud's case, for example, you know, they weren't going to be getting any answers, even though there were cousins involved, there were uncles involved, her family members were involved, her siblings knew, lots of people knew, but nobody was going to say anything because that silence around it, that you know, these honor violence and honor killings is so much embedded a part of the culture that it is like it has twisted, has made it upside down so that the girl who is being too Western, she is bringing shame to the family. So she is the bad one. Whereas her father or her uncle or her cousin or whoever is the criminal, the murderer, he is the good guy, right? And we see the same things with female genital mutilation, a big problem here in the UK and in America and Canada and everywhere else. If a blonde-haired, blue-eyed father took a razor to his daughter's clitoris, that man would be either in prison or in a psych ward. But when a Somali father does it, or when an Egyptian mother does it, then it's like, well, we'll give them a pamphlet and we'll educate them. You see, and that just empowers them.
In recent years, the UK has had unprecedented levels of legal and illegal immigration, at its peak grossing over 1 million immigrants in just 1 year, largely from non-European countries. Migration has added at least 3.7 million people to the UK population since 2010, with the UK topping the list of OECD nations in terms of new permanent arrivals. More people have arrived in Britain in the past 15 years than the entirety of British history between 1066 and the Second World War. Since 2018, more than 150,000 people have arrived in small boats across the Channel, mostly young men from Muslim countries such as Afghanistan, Syria, Turkey, Iran, and Iraq. Men with very different cultural attitudes towards women than we have in the West. That figure excludes those entering the country illegally by other means.
It shouldn't come as a surprise to us that there are certain groups which are clearly overrepresented. I mean, going back decades, you know, a woman going on holiday to, say, Egypt or Syria, Middle East country, a North African country, you would read the Foreign Office travel advice, and it would say in terms that, you know, you'll have trouble if you walk around alone. So I don't see why conceptually the system still won't really admit that bringing in hundreds of thousands of men from these sort of cultural backgrounds, a large proportion of them are liable to carry on with the same mindset.
So if you look at, for example, Egypt, the country my mother is from, women there, 99.3% of women report being sexually assaulted. 99.3. It's an astounding number. It sounds like hyperbole, but this is a true number, and the research was done by UNICEF. And the reason why you see such astounding numbers is because it's so much a part of the culture. It's so normalized. This idea of gang rapes that we've heard about that were happening in Germany, for example. So when men go around a woman and basically like predators, you know, pouncing on their prey in the middle, which we saw happen in Tahrir Square in Egypt, that's called taharrush. it has a name. It's a part of the culture. It's what men do when they see a woman alone, and when she's not, protected by other men around her, then they consider her to be prey.